Hello everyone, today we'll be looking at pandas as a beginner step by step. Now, before we go into pandas, you need to know what is pandas. Now, pandas is a library which we use for data manipulation and data analysis. Okay, so pandas is the library we use in Python to create data frames or to read informations. Now, what we are going to do now is, you can see I have a list of informations we are going to do. So we're going to be taking it one step at another. Okay, so now I'm going to import the pandas because that is the first thing we are going to do. Remember, in Python, whatever library we are going to use, we have to first import. So I'm going to say import pandas as PD. Now, the PD means representation of pandas. So we are using the pandas. Anywhere we call PD, it means pandas. Now I'm going to use my shift and enter to run my code. So you can see print pandas. Now, if I want to see the attributes that are embedded in the library called pandas, what I'm going to say is the print, then the dir, that is the directory, and the PD. Remember, the PD is representation of pandas. Okay, so when I run this information, you can see we have a whole lot of attributes embedded in our pandas. And we said pandas is for data analysis and data manipulation. Now, the first thing we are going to look at is what we call data frame. Now, data frame consists of rows and columns. The same way we have in Excel, we have what we call the worksheets. Okay, so we have the rows and columns. A table that consists rows and columns. But in Python, we call it data frame. All right, data frame. So now, what I have here, you will see that I have an information which is comment. So I'm going to uncomment it. So what I have here now is a variable holding a dictionary of lists. You can see a variable, a dictionary holding different lists. So in terms of names, you can see gender, age, and I want to convert this information, which is a variable, into a data frame. So when I say I want to convert a variable into a data frame, it means that I want to convert that variable into a tabular form. Okay, so when I do this now and when I run my information, okay, an error. So let's adjust this. And when I run through, I am going to have my table. So you can see in my table, I have the name, the gender, and the age. Okay, the rows and columns. So please do not forget about that. Now, the numbers we are having here at the first place is the index number of each row. The index number of each row. So if we want to access each information, we use the index number. So now what we have done is we have created a data frame using a dictionary of lists. Now, we can also create a data frame using an array. So I have this here, which I'm going to uncomment. Okay. So remove this. Now, I am using an array to create a data frame. Remember, with this data frame is a table that consists of rows and columns, and it has multiple data types. Okay. So now I have this form of an array, and I want to pass it into my data frame. When I run this now, I am going to have an information. Okay, when I run this information now, we are going to get an output. Okay, so I created information data1. Okay, pass data one. NP is not defined. All right. Now, the reason why it's showing me that the information is not defined is because I have to import the numpy, which we call as the numerical Python. So when I do this now, and I run my information, I am going to see my data. Okay. Okay. So you can see now we have our information. But if you notice now, there is no header. So what I'm just going to do here is I'm going to add the column is equals to, and I pass it in the form of a list. So the first information is going to be name, the second one gender, then the last one is going to be the age. Okay, so when I do this now and I run, Okay, I have to close my bracket. So when I run this information now, you can see that we have our headers. The previous one was just showing us index numbers. So the index number is not only limited to the rows, it's also can also use it for the columns. Okay, so that's how to create a data frame using a array. Now, data frame operations, meaning what it's saying here is that how can we go about our way or activities using a table? Now, the first thing we are going to look at under here now is we have what we call select a single column. So assuming you want to just be only for the gender, how am I going to do that? Now we're going to do that together. So I'm going to say, which is our df1, then a square bracket, please take note, and I pass in the name of our column. So when I pass the name of my column, all the informations that align with that column is going to come out. So I'll say gender, and remember to close your square brackets. So when I run this now, I should have all the information that is related to what? Gender. Now that's how to get select a single column. Now for multiple columns here, I'm just going to say df1. Remember, I'm calling this information. So I'll say df1, the square bracket, and I add another square bracket. So please, if you're calling for multiple columns, you have to use the double square bracket. So I'll say the gender or name. Please, if you create a variable, take note of something. If you create a column and call it names, please ensure you call it names here because you're going to have an error. All right. So, comma, the gender. So when I do this now, and I also close it twice. So if I run this now, you can see I have been able to get two information. So to select a column, we use a single bracket, square bracket, but if we want to select multiple information, we use the double square bracket in Python. Now, we have what we call to select a value using look. So the full meaning of look means location. So to do this, I'll say df1 dot the look, the df1 dot look, and I'm going to use my square bracket here. Then let's say I want to see an information in terms of index number. Okay, so now I'm going to pass in a number. Let's say we want to see for my information, I want to see John. All the informations that relate to John. I'm going to click 1, then close the bracket. And when I run this now, you can see I have all the information allocated with John. Now, the next one is, now what if I want to see multiple information? Okay, the same way we are just only for just John. What if I want to see for John and Ben? How do I do this? So the same thing, I'll say df1 dot look, that is the location. Then I'm going to call out their index number. So for Ben is 0, comma, then John 1. When I run this now, I am going to have, okay, I'm not going to have a value. I'm going to have an error. Why? Because I'm using a single square bracket. You can see I'm having key error. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the double square bracket here, and when I run my information, I should have Ben and John. Okay. Now we have another method again, which we call the ilog. So the ilog means the index location. Okay, the index location. I'm going to show you the difference between the location and the index location. So for the location now, I'm going to say df1 dot ilog again for just one single value. I want to see only Ben, and I pass in the single value. And when I run this now, I should have all the informations relating with Ben. Now, if I want to select multiple values using the ilog, I'll say df1 dot ilog. Remember, we want to select multiple information, we use the double square bracket. So I want to see from 1 and 2. Okay, I'll double close it again. So when I run this now, I should see for Ben and Pete, because Pete belongs to what? The index location number. Okay, that's it. Then now, let us see the difference. If I use the same dif1 dot look, and I use the square bracket, let's say I want to get the information of 0, 2. So what this means is that I want to just get a single value. whereby where 0 meets and where 2 meets. Okay, now if I want to do this now, if I run this, I'm going to have an error because I cannot use the look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear my outputs and come over here. Then I say df1 dot the ilog, and I pass in my information. So 0 means the row, 2 means the columns. So you read the rows before the columns. So when I do this now, that means I want to see my information of index 0 in terms of row and the column. So if you count it 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. That means I want to see the information age. So if I run this now, it's going to give me 34 because it belongs to what? 34. So the row of 0, then the index in terms of the columns 0, 1, 2. Okay, so if you are counting, start from 0. All right. Now, the next one here we have, in terms of using the ilog, we say df1 dot log ilog, and I say semicolon. This means that I want to get all the rows. Remember already in terms of rows and columns, all the rows. Then I use semicolon 2, meaning that what I'm trying to say is that give me all the information and stop at index 2. That is the meaning of this. So when I run this now, I should have name and gender. Why? Because each column starts with 0. So name 0, gender 1, 2 is what? Age. So age is not going to show. It's only if I change this column and I place it at the back. It means that give me all the information, all the rows starting from age. When I run this now, you can see only age, because after age, there's no other information. So I'll take it back. Okay. Now, what if we want to add a column to our data frame? How are we going to do that? Now, we can add a column. Say, example, I want to add salaries. So I'll say df1, that's the name of the data frame, square bracket, and I pass in salaries. Salaries, close my double quote, then equals to. So how many informations do we have? We have, okay, we have, okay, 3 informations. So I'm going to pass in 3 informations here. So I'm going to pass it in the form of a string. I'm going to say 20,000, or yes, 20,000, then 30,000, then 40,000. Now I have 3 informations. If I pass in 4 instead of 3, I'm going to have an error saying that it's not aligning with the arrays. So when I do this now and I print df1, I'm going to see salaries already on my table. So that's how to add a column on my data frame. Now, what if I want to drop that data frame? What if I want to drop that? So before we look at drop that, let's look at how to convert the column to the right data type. So before we can convert an information to the right data type, let us look at the natural data type in terms of age. So I'll say df1, that's the name of our data frame, dot info, open bracket, close bracket. When I run this now, you can see that we have a list of information. So what we have is all columns, but entries, 3 entries, 0 to 2. That's the index numbers. Okay. So you can see that age is an object, but it's not supposed to be so. Now, if we want to convert this information, we will use what we call the as type. Okay, as type function. Now, to do this, I'm going to say the df1, and I call out the age, then equals to, I say df1 age dot as type. As type as what? An integer, because it's numbers. So as integer. By the time I do this and I run my df.info, remember the info helps us to check what the data type of our information. So if I run this now, you can see now our age now is in the right data type. So that's how to convert an information to the right data type. Now, if I want to drop a column, how do I do this? So to drop a column, I'm going to say using the drop function. So we're going to use the drop function. The drop function. So to drop the information, what I'm going to do now is df1 dot drop, and I pass in, is the function. So open bracket, close bracket. Now inside the open bracket, close bracket, I'm going to be specific on what column. So let's say I want to drop, or before I drop, let me copy this information. So I'm going to say df2 is equals to df1 dot copy, meaning that I want to copy the informations into df2. So I'll change this now to df2, and I want to drop salaries. So inside, I'm going to say the salaries, okay, salaries, and I select the column. Then I'll say axis is equals to 1. Why am I saying axis equals to 1? Because I want to drop a column. If I want to drop a row, I say axis equals to 0. So please take note, axis for rows 0, columns 1. Then I pass in place. So in place, make sure that whatever we are doing is going to be permanent on our data. So when I do this true, and I come down here to print the df2, if I run this now, you can see that age is no longer, the salary, sorry, salaries are no longer showing on our table. Why? Because I have dropped it. Okay. Now we have what we call lastly conditional statement. So imagine I want to pass in a condition saying, give me all the information that, example, let me give an example. Let's say we want to select for age. We want to see, give me all the age and salaries. An example, say age, people that are more than 30 or 40. So I'm going to say df1, then open bracket, df1, I'm going to select my age. Okay, so select my age. Then I'm going to say condition greater than 40. That means any of those ages that are above 40, give me those information, print those information. Then I'll close this. Okay. So when I do this now, above 40. So when I run this, I should have, okay, not callable, all the informations. Okay. Use a square bracket at the end. So when I run this now, you can see it's giving me all the informations that are above 40. So it's a form of we are filtering our data. We just want to see a specific information. We don't want to see all our information. Now, what if I want to see all the informations that are below 40 with their salaries? We can do that as well. So I'll say df1, the square bracket, I'll say df1, then the bracket again. So square bracket, normal bracket, df1, then the square bracket again, and I'll say age. Okay, close it again. Then that are less than 40. Okay, so when I do this, I close my square bracket. Then I say and I'll say open bracket df1. Then I select in terms of salaries. Remember, we're using df1, we only drop for df2. So I'll say less than 30,000 naira. So what we are trying to do now is give us all the information of age, whereby their age is less than 40 and their salary is less than 30,000 naira using Python. Okay, so when I close this information and use my square bracket here, when I run this now, we should have our information. Okay, ambiguous. So what I'm trying to say here now, this is all. So what I'm trying to say here is that give us all the informations, but first their age must be less than 40 and their salary must be less than 30. So you can see we have our information. Now we have come to the end of the class. I hope we're able to understand what is Python, Pandas, how to use Pandas, how to create a data frame, how to remove an information, and how to add a column.